Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the way the news media is evolving, because a lot of people who should be aware seem to be missing something. Private Eye are this week talking about the massive job cuts at traditional newspapers and their use of AI to write articles rather than people, as journalism being on its last legs. And some people see a scaling back of Tory newspapers and think this is a good thing, but the Tory client media have never had more reach. Let me show you how. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So let's begin with the Sun newspaper, shall we? In the late 80s, it had a circulation of close to 4 million. A few years ago, not that much more than 1 million. A catastrophic decline, especially when you take into account population growth. From 7% of the UK population buying a copy of the Sun every single day, and of course it will have been more than that who read it, in 1987, to less than 2% in 2020. The Sun is clearly losing its hold. That's obvious. Obvious, but wrong. It's not the Sun losing its hold, and the same with other Tory papers undergoing job cuts and getting AI to write articles. As Private Eye alludes to, it's journalism which is dying, not Tory client media. What's happening is a lot of people who still think of journalism along the traditional lines of newspapers and broadcast news programmes are missing something huge. The Sun is one of the most popular newspapers in the UK. Its reach is absolutely massive, just not so much in the printed form. No prizes for guessing what I'm talking about. They are massive on social media. YouTube, as I wish I could get through the skulls of progressive politicians, is a massive platform for news and current affairs. Absolutely huge. Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer went mountain climbing and every time he thought he was looking at the peak, it was like, no, there's way more to come. Well, let me show you something similar. I think for a lot of you, this will blow your mind, but I want to do it. I want to do more than that. I want it to make people sit up and take notice. And above all, for those who can, to do something about it. Let's first of all look at the largest progressive political parties on the Westminster scene. Now, let me explain something first of all, otherwise some people are going to go very mad with me. You'll notice I've coloured the bars red. Yes, red is the colour of Labour, and I'm a Labour supporter. I need a visual distinction between left-wing progressive, right-wing regressive. Red is the international colour of socialism, which is why I always chuckle to think of Republicans being red, even though someone did recently explain to me why that was. And I have gone for blue to indicate the right wing, even though there is no international convention there. But that's what I associated with it growing up in Thatcher's Britain. So it's not party political, apologies. You'll see why I've done it in a moment. But anyway, those four parties of Labour, Lib Dems, Greens and SNP, they've all got a YouTube channel. They're all taking it seriously, I think. These are their average daily viewing figures for the past 30 days. Lib Dems doing the best. Now, for some reason, Keir Starmer created his own channel as leader rather than just utilising the Labour channel, even though the content on it wouldn't look out of place on the Labour channel, right? But anyway, he's done it. Here are his figures. Like, okay, better than the others. But now let's add in the competition. So the Conservatives and Reform UK have channels as well, as does Nigel Farage personally, maybe for the same reason as Keir Starmer. What do we see? The regressive accounts, the right-wing accounts, are not just getting more reach than the progressive ones, way more reach. Orders of magnitude more, in fact, or at least one order of magnitude more. XL had to adjust the scale in such a way as the first ones are now pebbles against boulders. The right-wing are winning the information war, as they always do. But they used to do it by buying newspapers. You needed money to do that. You couldn't just buy a newspaper. But YouTube doesn't take a big budget to utilise. It just needs a small team who know how to get through to people. I wish I could say this. You do not need a budget to use YouTube and be really successful on YouTube. Reform, the Tories and Nigel Farage, they don't have more money than Labour. They're not spending more on their social media stuff than Labour, but they have way more reach on the platform because they're just doing it better. It doesn't take a lot of investment to utilise this platform. But we've barely begun this ascent up the mountain, because even the Conservatives and Nigel Farage, the big boys at the moment, are absolutely pants. Let's add in some non-party affiliated progressive channels. We've got my own Maxers, Jimmy the Giant, Owen Jones, and a couple of team-based ones, Navarra Media and Politics Joe. We're beating them quite comfortably. That is because even though the Conservatives and Nigel Farage are taking the potential of YouTube way more seriously, even they don't quite know what they're doing. There are some things they're missing in the way they're approaching it, thank goodness. People like me, a lone operation with a camera and a shed is doing better than Nigel Farage or the Tories and getting through to more people, and so are the others here. However, there are also some right-wing commentators not directly linked with political parties as well. You've got Jeff Taylor, Maya Tusi, Black Belt Barrister as notable examples. Black Belt Barrister and Tusi in particular are knocking the rest of us out the park. See where I'm going here? Every time we move a bit up the mountain and think there is hope for the progressive talking points, we get smashed by our right-wing equivalents. And as for the political parties, our progressive voices in Parliament, I can barely see them on this scale. But we have still not finished. In fact, we haven't even moved much past base camp in reality. Let's look at some professionals. Never mind broadcast viewing figures or newspaper circulations. The real reach from professional news organisations is on YouTube. Let's look at a bit of a mix here. On the left, progressive, we could say we've got Channel 4 News and The Guardian. On the right, entering the arena, is The Telegraph, The Sun and GB News. They're all kicking the shit out the independent channels. But amongst them, again, it's the right wing winning. And again, I'll emphasise, this is not about money being spent. I obviously can't know how much each is spending on their YouTube channel, but it won't be huge, and there won't be a huge disparity between the progressive and regressive versions. How do I know? Because I don't have much of a budget for producing my stuff, but it's still beating the hell out of the supposedly professional political parties who are way more famous than I am. There is, by the way, a reason why the right-wing versions are doing better, but I'm not going to go over that because it'll just make the video too long. I've talked about it in other ones anyway. I'll probably do it again at some point. I'm just trying to show what's happening here rather than do a detailed synopsis. Now, look at where those political parties are on this scale as well, by the way. Like, even Nigel Farage is looking a bit teeny tiny, although he is also being personally boosted by GB News, who are getting over 2 million views a day on their YouTube channel. And if you're wondering why I've not included, say, The Mirror or someone like, oh, you've got The Guardian, Channel 4 News, but The Mirror is surely more left-wing. It's like, yeah, because they're rubbish. Their output is poor. They don't get views. No point in me including channels whose views are shite in this, because the chart is already like got a lot of players on the field. But if you think I'm done, not quite. Not quite. I mean, it already looks quite bad here. GB News and The Sun towering above even their peers in the professional world of news reporting. But even they are but babies compared to the big beast of British political news. Obviously, I use the word news here in its loosest possible form. Do you want to see the real king of the hill? Are you furiously trying to think of a progressive account who can give the final win to the left? Don't bother. It's the Daily Mail, with almost 9 million views a day on average over the past month. Now, here's the big message I want to get out here, and I want people to take seriously. I can only skim the views. I can get the views and I can get how many videos they've put out. I can work out things like that. On my own channel, I've got access to much more detailed data. I know, for example, on my own channel, how many unique accounts are watching my content, so how many individual people, sort of, and what proportion of views are in this country. I can't, unfortunately, say how many unique accounts are watching from the UK, which would be really useful. I have asked YouTube, who said, yeah, there isn't really a way to do that. So you can do a bit of a fiddle, but it doesn't matter. I obviously don't know how many unique accounts are watching those other channels. Only they will know that. I don't know what percentage of those views are within the UK. Again, I can't see that. That's not publicly available. Only those individuals will know that. But I will point this out. For the big news channels, it's probably not quite in the same proportion as mine. So in a minute, I'm going to tell you how many unique viewers I had. You probably just can't scale it up for the bigger ones because they usually kick out way more videos because they're not a one-man operation. And if there are people who watch multiple videos a day and you've got lots and lots of content, probably the proportion of unique viewers is lower per, say, million views than mine, right? But you can still scale up. And on my channel, in those last 30 days, I had 577,000 unique accounts watching some of my content. It's me, on my own, talking to a camera in a shed. 577,000 individual people, at least, because there's probably more than that, because I know some people watch with others. They're watching on one account, but it's multiple people. And just under 2/3 of all my views came from within the UK, which has been fairly consistent for a while. And I had an average of 125,000 views a day over that period. Well over 500,000 individual people at least, because again, I know some viewers watch with others. So maybe getting through to about 400,000 unique people in the UK with about 125,000 views a day. Now imagine how many individual people a channel with 9 million views a day is getting through to. So don't think falling newspaper circulation is the death knell for Tory client media reporting. That's just their old shell. It's their chrysalis. They've moved on. They're getting way more reach on other platforms, while still having some reach through that print media. And those on the progressive side are just seemingly oblivious to this because they're influenced by people stuck in the 20th century means of communicating with the public. They seem to have no idea about how people are really getting their news these days, what they're really watching. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.